Hi everyone, yasas que kalosir feta to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're going to be making cheesy puff pastry rolls. These are so simple to make. They're great for an appetizer if you want to serve something at a party. Serve this alongside any dips. It's just very simple to make. Let's get started. We're going to begin by grating about 7-8 ounces of mozzarella cheese. I like to buy it in block form and just grate it myself using a box grater. It's best to grate it while it's still cold so it sticks less to the grater and you have less of a chance of scraping yourself on the grater. The cheese will be firmer that way. And then a little tip about cleanup. The best way to clean cheese off of a grater or even a plate is with cold water. Hot water will kind of cook it on there and just make it impossible to clean, but cold water will have the cheese slide right off. So there's a little tip if you didn't already know that. Grate the cheese and just set it aside. I prefer to buy blocked mozzarella because the already grated cheese has a lot of stuff in there, like anti-caking agents that are kind of powdery and prevent the cheese from melting nicely. So that's the reason I use the block cheese, but if you already have grated, you can just use that or shredded. Next, we're gonna take a big sheet of puff pastry. Now you can use a box of puff pastry that has the 2 sheets already in it, but I buy my puff pastry from a restaurant supply shop and you get these big, beautiful sheets and they're just easy to work with and they're not folded. They're just a big flat sheet. It's the equivalent of 2 sheets that already come in the box. It's about almost 500 grams or almost a pound if I'm right, or a pound and an ounce or something like that. I don't remember exactly how much they weigh, but it's around that. So I'm just gonna spread 8 ounces of room temperature cream cheese. You wanna make sure it's nice and soft. Mine should have been even a little bit softer than this, then it's easier to spread. But just spread a thin layer over the top of the puff pastry and get it as even as possible. Then go ahead and crumble feta cheese on top. I'm using about between 6 to 8 ounces. You put as much or as little of cheese as you want in this. But crumble that cheese on top and then go ahead and sprinkle the grated mozzarella on top of that. About a teaspoon of dried oregano and a little pinch of dried mint. If you have fresh mint, you can finely chop about a tablespoon or 2 of fresh mint and just sprinkle it on top. But with the dried mint, it's so aromatic and refreshing, you'll need a little bit. Under the puff pastry, I have a sheet of parchment paper. It's kind of gonna make it easier to roll this thing up. Go ahead and carefully roll it up and then cut it into 8 equal pieces. Put it on a baking tray that's been lined with parchment paper, and then I made a little egg wash on the side with 1 egg and about a tablespoon of heavy whipping cream. Whip that all up and then brush it on top of the rolls. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. These are gonna bake on the center rack for about 35 or 40 minutes or until they're nice and golden on top. Once they come out of the oven, you wanna let them sit at room temperature for about 10 minutes so that way they can settle. You'll see that they kind of fell a little bit and they don't look as neat as they could. If you want them to hold their shape a little bit more, before cutting the log, after you roll it up, you could freeze it for about 30-40 minutes and it'll hold its shape and you'll have better, smoother, neater slices, and it might not fall apart like this, but we like everything home style and rustic around here. It's perfectly fine. Just take a look at how cheesy this is. Once you pull it apart, the cheese has that pull. It is time for the taste test. Oh my God. Puff pastry is so good. It's flaky, it's a little bit crispy on top. That cheese is smooth and creamy. And you get a little bit of the brininess from the feta. The combination is amazing. This would go well with either tzatziki sauce or a marinara sauce would be nice with this too. Pesto is also a really nice combination with this. Let me know how you're serving these in the comment section down below. If you want to print the recipe out, head on over to the website, dimitrasdishes.com. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yasas.